New York and throughout the country, honoring the memory of those that were lost on this day 17 years ago. We are in Nashville, where tonight our national team dons the colors of these United States to take on rivals Mexico. A young team gathers to build a foundation that will lead American soccer into the future. And a warm welcome from Nashville, Tennessee on a historically significant day here in the United States. In moments, it will be the renewal of the biggest rivalry in our corner of the world. It's the United States and Mexico, both very young, both with interim managers, both looking to build towards the next World Cup cycle. Glad you could join us. It's very festive here in Nashville. Thrilled to be with two guys who've been to many of these USA-Mexico games, Casey Keller and Herculez Gomez. A lot of these guys have not been through this process, Casey, and now they get to seize this opportunity. What was it like for your first USA-Mexico game? What are these kids going through?
Well, the first thing they're going through is going, wait a minute, I thought we were at home. I mean, that's the first thing that usually comes through your mind. But no, you know, as you understand the rivalry, a lot of these kids have probably played in this match with the youth teams.
Yes.
It's been ingrained into them what this means, and they're going to know there is no friendly when it comes to the United States and Mexico. There's going to be some boots flying, and there's going to be some tackles that come through that aren't normal in a lot of other friendlies.
A year out, still no coach. You want to make a name for yourself if you're a young player. No coach for your fans. It's this game on September 11th in front of the whole world to see versus your biggest rival. I couldn't think of a better way to showcase yourself for the next incoming coach than this game.
Not a wasted practice whatsoever. Both these teams coming off losses to South American Elite on Friday. We'll talk about Mexico a little bit later. USA losing to Brazil. What stood out? What is something to work on from those 90 minutes against Neymar and company?
Well, look, I mean, I think we all understand the opposition that the United States went up against. So, but I really liked the center back pairing. I like John Brooks back into the fold, injury-free. You know, I know he's been a little inconsistent with the national team, but he's a guy with a ton of an upside. And Matt Miazga had a good performance. You were able to see when DeAndre Yedlin was pushed higher up the field, he was able to show his athleticism, his one-on-one defending, slide out wide, tackle Neymar a couple times. I mean, it's impressive. His evolution continues to grow.
You know, it's interesting you talk about the pairings because I'm excited about Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams. When I think about the center of midfield for the United States men's national team, I think of these two players. You look at Tyler Adams, how composed, how intelligent he is with the ball. Just his overall leadership at such a young age. Weston McKennie, the ground he can cover, his athleticism, his willingness to win the ball, get into the box. Oftentimes, I look at Tyler Adams and I think of Michael Bradley. And then I look at Weston McKennie and it makes me think of Jermaine Jones. That both makes me feel hopeful for the future and worries me because when those two players, Michael Bradley and Jermaine Jones together were at their best, they were phenomenal. But when they were at odds and they showed that tactical indiscipline, that's when the United States men's national team got into trouble.
Hey, we're along this ride all together to see this U.S. team that will grow into 2022. Here's the starting 11. There are 6 changes, Casey, to the team that lost to Brazil.
And 3 of them in the back line. Shaq Moore comes in at right back. DeAndre Yedlin rested, I assume, to go back before Newcastle. Eric Lehigh goes in at the left. And Cameron Carter-Vickers in as well at center back.
Oh, we talk about that duo in the middle, but then you look at Acosta out on the right, but for me it's Timothy Weah on the left. This player is already sharpening his iron with the most elite in the world. Can he be that player now with these peers, now with the national team? Can he make a name for himself here?
As we talked about, as we see that starting 11, great opportunity for all of them. That includes Tyler Adams. Our Sebastian Salazar spoke with him earlier.
Tyler, this will be your first taste of this rivalry at senior international level. What have you heard about it, and what do you expect from tonight?
Yeah, well, what I've heard about it, starting with that, I think that the veteran players from this team have all experienced some big games against Mexico. And any time that you step on the field against these guys, it's going to be a battle out there. So I think that as a young player getting their first sniff at it, I'm really excited. I know that keeping your composure in a big atmosphere is important, but ultimately we want to get a win.
Mexico, the opponent tonight, perhaps the date more important. It is September 11th. What does it mean to you to represent the United States on this date?
Yeah, as an American, whenever you get to represent the national team, obviously you want to represent your country with pride. I think that on this day, all the fallen soldiers that fought for us, and NYPD and the fire departments, and anybody that lost their lives in that event, obviously a tragic event. And for me, being a kid from New York, obviously means a little bit more. So we want to go out there and we want to represent our country in the right way. But again, just as a young player, just going out there and fighting and competing, and at the end of the day, the result will come.
Tyler, thanks. Appreciate the time.
No doubt about it, the weight of the jersey on an emotional night, certainly for the New Yorker, Tyler Adams. We look at the 11 that we will have here. Casey, what stood out to you about how this team is going to assemble?
Well, I think when you're talking 3 changes in the back line, that's always difficult to go into a new game, particularly against your rivals. With some untested kids. Look, I like Cameron Carter-Vickers. He, to me, is like one of those old-school defenders who's going to fight for everything.
Yes.
He's going to put it this way, the Mexican strikers are going to know that they were in a match coming against Cameron Carter-Vickers.
You know, I go back to what Ernie Stewart said. He wants that in-your-face American mentality. I assume he wants the same American spirit, the same athleticism, but isn't that what we've always had? I want to see creativity. I want to see the players who are able to go 1v1 and break those defensive schemes to allow Gyasi Zardes to have freedom in the attack, and that was missing versus Brazil.
A lot of questions are not going to all be answered here tonight, but maybe some are, and the guys who will be calling this will have a watchful eye on the proceedings. Ian Dark, Taylor Truman. Gentlemen.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Well, these kids, make no mistake, have been thrown in at the deep end this year. They played the world champions France, a very honourable 1-1 draw. Didn't do too badly, really, against a very talented Brazil the other night. We've seen hard work, we've seen organisation, we've seen character, we've seen spirit. What we haven't seen yet is flair, menace, devil, goal threat, Taylor.
And I've got a little case of deja vu, because 4.5 years ago, you and I are in Boca Raton, Florida, in the first friendly after the World Cup of Brazil, and you asked me the exact same thing. Who's going to score goals? And I said, well, you've got an aging Clint Dempsey, Chris Wondolowski's done, often injured Josie Altidore, and indifferent performances from Bobby Wood and Aaron Johansson. Now I'm sitting here September 11, 2018, it's even worse. The most pressing issue for the United States right now, who's going to put the ball in the back of the net? 21 players in Major League Soccer, Ian, have scored 10-plus goals. Only 2 of them are eligible to play for the United States men's national team. We can talk about the midfield. We can talk about the back line. Who's going to be the next goalkeeper? The most pressing issue over the next 4 years is finding someone to press the issue against Josie Altidore and put the ball in the back of the net. Otherwise, over the next 3 years, there's going to be some weird results, and we're relying on unknown qualities like Josh Sargent, Timothy Weah, some young kids that are trying to find their own.
Well, you mentioned Timothy Weah there, 18, the son, of course, of the great George Weah. He's at a high-octane club like Paris Saint-Germain. I think he can add a bit of the X factor, the bit of pace out wide that was missing the other night.
Well, and later in the show, we're going to celebrate the great career of Clint Dempsey, and we all described that, played with him or watched him play. He had a little bit extra sauce. Timothy Weah has that. Now, I think in the middle of the park, he's got to clean it up. He's got to be a little bit more direct, because his change of pace is something you can't teach. Make no mistake about it. In the middle of the field, if he cleans up his game, he's got something special at the end of the field, but he's an unknown quantity, and that's all we're talking about right now with the United States. An opportunity tonight that we may be talking about. Timothy Weah came onto the scene against Mexico in Nashville.
There was a chance, certainly, for some young men to put their name up in lights tonight, Max.
Thanks, guys. Yes, Soccer 101. You got to put the ball in the back of the net. We'll see who puts their hand up. Their opponent, Mexico. They just completed 2 months ago their World Cup. It started great, beat the reigning champs, Germany. Followed that up with a victory over South Korea, and then Sweden. They went down badly. However, they got a helping hand from the Koreans, got them in the round of 16, but there was no quinto partido. Eliminated by Neymar and Brazil. A familiar finish for El Tri. And now, much like the United States, looking to a young group to pick them up and lead them to that next stage, Hercules. And there's some guys that are very exciting, but unproven.
Very much unproven. Look, I know it's apples to oranges. 7 straight knockout appearances in a World Cup for Mexico, but a lot of similarities between the U.S. Soccer Federation, the Mexican Federation, and both teams. There's a generational shift. The older players are on their way out, young promising players, but very much unproven. More questions than answers from the Federation. Still no head coach. I think they didn't assume it'd be this difficult to find a head coach. A lot of the same things are going on, Case.
And in the end, really, they're still just looking for that guy that can take them over that hurdle, that can finally bring a generation together and get them into that quarterfinal, semifinal.
Sebastian Salazar with his finger on the pulse. They got a good guy, but he's on an interim basis right now. Tuca Ferretti, your thoughts on this direction and the coaches for El Tri?
Look, guys, Tuca Ferretti has some very exciting young players. You know the hype train that runs rampant through American soccer? It runs just as smoothly south of the border. Let's get to know some of the future stars, potentially, of Mexico. I'm going to start with Diego Lainez. He's an 18-year-old, plays for Club America in the Mexican First Division. Now, most of the damage he's done has been at youth national team levels. That includes the Toulon tournament in France. It's an under-21 tournament. He was the best player of the tournament this summer at 17 years old. That raised some eyebrows, including the eyebrows of Roma, who have made an official offer to Club America. Club America has said, no, it's not enough money. Now, Lainez, because he plays for such a big club, hasn't been maybe getting the first team minutes. That has not been the case for Roberto Alvarado. He plays for Cruz Azul down in Mexico. They're in first place right now, and he is a big reason why. And just Thursday night against Uruguay in Houston, there were scouts from Manchester United in attendance to watch him play, and it's not the first time that Manchester United have kicked the tires on this kid. They had him in for a trial at just 14 years of age. So, guys, we're going to get to see them both tonight, and both from the jump.
Thanks, Sebi. A lot of fresh faces everywhere in this game. Here's the starting 11 for Ricardo Tuca Ferretti. A whopping 10 changes here.
Hey, look at Hugo Gonzalez, a very much unproven goalkeeper for the Mexican national team. You got Alanis, Hugo Ayala in the middle, Edson Alvarez, Abella Arteaga. It's Guzman, Victor Guzman, a very good player from Pachuca with Eric Aguirre. But it's like Sebastian Salazar said, it's all about Alvarado and Lainez, the two jewels of Mexican soccer with Saldívar in the center.
Look, there's nothing different than from the U.S. squad. You got a bunch of unproven guys getting their opportunity with the national team. Yes, it's an interim manager, maybe, but still, when you can prove to your fans, to the press back home, to everybody, and you prove it against the U.S. in the U.S., that goes a long ways.
Jonathan Gonzalez, not in the starting 11, made some waves. He's from Northern California. He sent his allegiances with Mexico on a national team level. He said, I made the decision perfectly. Everything came out perfect. Happy to be here. Happy that Mexico opened its doors to me. This has caused a lot of debate, Casey. When you look at the trajectory now of young Mr. Jonathan Gonzalez.
Max, look, for me, it's really simple. I think as a U.S. Soccer Federation, you have to scour the planet to see who has U.S. passports. You have conversations with those kids and you say, look, what do you feel? What do you feel in your heart? Do you feel like you're an American or do you feel like the other passport? And if you say, well, I'm not sure, well, that's your decision made.
What if you're like me, a Mexican-American kid who all his life has felt, ni de aquí, ni de allá, neither there nor over there? I've always felt like it's a personal decision. And when Jonathan Gonzalez has been personally lied to by the U.S. Soccer Federation and makes this decision, listen, I wish him all the best. It's a very personal and intimate decision for any dual citizen.
Yep.
That'll be a practical decision, certainly for Jonathan Gonzalez. And we'll see how he blends in moving towards 2022. Much more coming from Nashville. We'll hear from the man currently in charge of the U.S. men's national team, Dave Sarachan. He sat down with Taylor. Back on the U.S. radar, I should say. They were here last year for the Gold Cup. Back again here at Nissan Stadium, this time to face Mexico. Last Wednesday, Dave Sarachan and the U.S. men's national team visited the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. They met several NYPD and FDNY first responders who shared their stories and toured the museum. Sarachan said that the team came away with more meaning of what went on in this country and what playing for the U.S. is all about. Many of these players, 6, 7, 8 years old when that happened back in 2001. A look at New York and the lights, the skyline forever altered, and we're certainly happy to have the New York audience with us. Happy to join you for USA and Mexico. Dave Sarachan was Bruce Arena's top assistant. When Arena had to step down last October, he filled the void on an interim basis. A tough job, keeping an eye on these young players and taking them to that next process until a new manager is appointed. He had a chance to sit down with our Taylor Twellman to talk about the job at hand and what lies ahead and what these kids are made of in the Heineken ESPN FC boot room.
Dave, why are you doing this right now? Why did you stay on to help through this transition process?
Well, when I was asked to do it, you don't turn down your country. You don't turn down the national team. I felt it was a real responsibility to get back into the evaluation process, the next cycle process. For me personally, I have a lot of experience. I've done this before. I've been around World Cup teams. I've been around qualifying. I had a feel for what I felt these young kids needed to hear. And I disagreed with the pundits that said we have a system that's broken.
Okay.
I do believe that when you win, you reassess, but when you lose, you reassess. And for sure we lost, and we need to reassess, and we need to make some changes, but I don't think it's broken. For me personally, I felt we still had the pool of young players that now we can start to introduce, and having my perspective and experience, I felt a responsibility to do that. Yeah.
So has that changed at all now that Ernie Stewart's come on board? Because you were flying solo before him. Has that changed at all now with him coming on board?
The only thing that's changed at the moment is having a technical person in that role at U.S. Soccer, which I think is great. You know, to have a guy like Ernie, who I coached in 2002.
How weird is that, by the way?
It's crazy. It is crazy. But a guy that I
You brought it up, by the way.
No, I know. I'm aging myself. I am aging myself. But no, a guy that I respected as a player.
Yeah.
And he has all the attributes to succeed at this stage as he did as a player, in terms of his work ethic, his knowledge, but it's nice to be able to bounce things off of a guy like Ernie. He's not coaching the team. You know, I'm still selecting, but he can offer a little different view or angle when we start talking about the pool and talking about planning and the future of what it's going to look like. So far, it's been really nice to have Ernie around.
When you look at this and they say after the 2022 World Cup and the United States national team had an unbelievable run at the World Cup in Qatar, what do you want them to say about Dave Sarachan?
That he had a hand in it, regardless of whether I'm at the helm or I'm not at the helm. I feel as though I've started the project in terms of putting together a pool of players that I hope will emerge in a way that they're going to be the foundation of this group that steps on the field in 2022.
Hard to argue that Dave Sarachan's been a great servant to U.S. Soccer through the years. Mentioning Ernie Stewart, the new GM for U.S. Soccer, and he's preaching patience in the search. What are your thoughts about the process?
I think it's a tough job for Ernie. I think because I think the U.S. national team job is kind of a little tweener position. You know, it's one of those jobs that you think is too big just to hire to the guy who kind of hasn't been anywhere, but it's not quite big enough to go grab some big name out of a big club somewhere around the world. So I think he's being patient to find it. Is it ideal? Of course not. But
how much more patience can we have, Case?
Well,
It's been a year.
There's the question.
It's been a year. I understand Ernie Stewart's been there since August, but everything he's saying when a new coach will come in by the end of the year points to somebody within Major League Soccer. All eyes are on Greg Berhalter. If we did a worldwide search for a coach and we came back to Major League Soccer, why has it taken a year to decide on that?
All right, Taylor, I know you've been listening in. Where are we and where do we go in this coaching search?
Max, this is the conversation that Herc and Casey are having within the inside circles of Major League Soccer and U.S. Soccer. Now, there's a little bit of a wrinkle because a little more than 24 hours ago, Ziggy Schmidt stepped down as a coach of the LA Galaxy. Greg Berhalter is at the forefront for the U.S. men's national team. That's not my opinion. That is what I am hearing from everyone else within U.S. Soccer in those circles. But there's a big concern for Greg Berhalter. He's still a young coach. Apples to oranges conversation when you coach a club team with the Columbus Crew, or you now go to only coaching a team 4 or 5 days every time you bring in a camp. He's going to have an interesting decision. Does he stay with Columbus? Does he go to the LA Galaxy where he was a player coach and has a great relationship with Chris Klein? Or does he become the U.S. men's national team head coach? But the bigger conversation is this, is that you've had your worst moment in your soccer program, and you are almost 365 days after that. If you are hiring Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, Marcelo Bielsa, then fine. I totally understand waiting and being patient, but you're not. You've set yourself up for an American coming out of Major League Soccer. If that's the case, then I can't buy these friendlies against France, against Italy, against England, against Colombia, against Mexico, against Brazil are less important than finishing out your Major League season that's currently going on. And if there was real pressure in our country, they would have had to hire someone by now. But because there's not, then that massive moment of missing the World Cup almost a year ago, it goes under the radar, it's under the rug, and we're sitting here tonight in a massive moment about developing young players. We still don't have a coach. That one I'm struggling hard to really buy if it's not Bielsa, Guardiola, or Mourinho class. That is where I am really struggling with this decision to wait until the end of 2018.
It certainly agrees with you, Hercules, and about the patience, and it's an interesting wrinkle about the Galaxy and competing internally here.
But at least you have to, I guess you have to ask the questions. You have to see if anybody of that caliber is actually interested, and you're not going to know that until after the World Cup, we all kind of assume they're not, but I guess you
with all
got to
due
ask the
respect,
questions.
so we're talking about the full national team. And the LA Galaxy bidding for the same coach.
Well, no,
and the LA Galaxy. We're assuming,
yeah.
okay, fine. This is the full national team.
Yeah.
It should be a no-brainer. If we're really going with an MLS coach, a year is disrespectful to your fan base.
So in the Premier League, is the English national team job competing with the top jobs in the English Premier League?
You're comparing apples to oranges. This is the Premier League, not Major League Soccer.
All right.
Greg Berhalter, Peter Vermes, those front runners perhaps, but if they drag their feet, they don't get their guy, there will be questions to be answered down the road. One guy we could always rely on, not anymore, Clint Dempsey calling it a career. We'll look back at the remarkable one that was Deuce.
Here's a kid I really like. Clint Dempsey is on. He's got a great future. I'm looking forward to seeing him out there.
The United States have their lead, and it's Clint Dempsey again.
There's not one single person in this world that man is going to step down from.
Across the Dempsey, he buries it! He buried it! This one is tied! Great start here. Can Clint Dempsey score? Yes! The US ahead! Incredibly, within seconds. Now that is dreamland.
Whatever it takes, 'cause I love the adrenaline in my veins. I do whatever it takes.
So many great memories at the very highest level for Clint Dempsey, and he played in a lot of these and played a significant role in them. He will be sorely missed with everything he's been able to do for the U.S. men's national team. Debate on whether he's the best player all time with Landon Donovan. Of course, Casey Keller, maybe an honorable third place in that. But he's going to leave a big void. And he's a guy who put the hand up all the time and said, I will do it. I'll score the goals. I'll have the moments.
Yeah, no question. Clint leaves a great legacy with soccer in the U.S. and in Europe. You know, but we talked about that transition, right? Where the old guard's kind of coming out and going. You got Jermaine Jones also kind of Tim Howard probably as well. So yeah, it's an opportunity for some young guys, but also some older guard. We're wondering if they're going to get filtered back in or not.
Yeah, let me start with Clint Dempsey. I have never played with a player with such competitive edge. I never knew where I stood with Clint Dempsey, whether he wanted to kill me or I was his best friend. We're going to miss his competitive edge on the field. Now, going back to that old guard, if you're a Michael Bradley, if you're a Josie Altidore, you 100% still have a place on these teams. These young guys like Timothy Weah, I don't care how they do with kids their own age. I want to see how they handle themselves with the Michael Bradleys of the world in that locker room.
There's no question that there's going to be a bleeding back of the old guard at some stage. The new coach is going to try to figure that out.
And the new guard, we'll see who puts their hand up here. And we're getting ready to get it started. The 68th edition of USA and Mexico coming up your way from Nashville, moments away from kicking things off.
Welcome back to the Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee, as the USA look to renew their rivalry with Mexico. Always a grudge match, always an edge, and you can feel that just looking around this stadium. big contingent of Mexican fans here as well. And there's the man, Dave Sarakan, who's been in charge for the best part of a year now, since the nightmare of the failure to qualify for the World Cup. But the USA are rebuilding, and they are rebuilding against some very tough opposition in 2018. Quite a dramatic setting down in that tunnel as the teams wait to enter the arena. And on 9/11, fitting that there is a big military presence here tonight, and First Sergeant Jamie McKeithen of the 101st Airborne Division based at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, leading the teams out. The American players were taken by their coach very recently when they were in New York to the 9/11 memorial. It was poignant, it was emotional, and many of them walked out with very little to say and in very thoughtful mood. And all were making the point yesterday that it's important for them to put on a performance tonight. Eight of the 11 of the starters for the United States tonight have never faced Mexico before, but it is a young Mexican team as well. As always, on these occasions, we will start with the national anthems. The first, it'll be that of Mexico.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your hats for the playing of the national anthem of Mexico. Tonight, we remember those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. Please remain standing and join in the singing of the national anthem. Presenting tonight's American flag are 150 soldiers of the 2nd Brigade Combat Team Strike, the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault Team from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, alongside U.S. soccer donors and partners. Singing tonight's Star-Spangled Banner, please welcome singer, songwriter, and RCA recording artist, Avery Wilson.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last
vengo.
Those poignant proceedings beautifully observed by this big crowd in Nashville. The latest assignment for the USA's interim head coach, Dave Sarakin, who might be setting a world record for such a role. It's nearly a year now, and still no news of who the permanent successor will be. Is the USA team that he's picked tonight. 6 changes from the team which lost to Brazil on Friday. A notable addition is 18-year-old Tim Weah of Paris Saint-Germain, who might add some pace and threat out wide. And Jassy Zardes getting another chance in the starting lineup up front. He's the leading American scorer in Major League Soccer this year.
15 goals for the Columbus Crew, but keep an eye on this back four with Eric Lehigh at left back, Miazga, Cameron Carter-Vickers. Because of Acosta naturally being a center midfielder, look for Shaq Moore to push forward, Acosta coming in. And that leads me to the subject of my Continental Tire Analyst Corner. Against the French, against the Brazilians, you're going to defend first and then look to counter. But tonight, you need to see a little bit more dynamic play out of the midfield. That starts with Will Trapp. I felt against Brazil, he was too deep centrally, and that limited the effect of Adams and McKennie pushing forward. If Acosta comes in, Will Trapp's push higher up the field, then that pushes the onus on McKennie, Adams, pushing higher up the field, playing closer to Giazzi Zardes, and hopefully creating more chances than we've seen over the last 2 friendlies.
Ugayala there is the only survivor from the Mexican team, which lost 4-1 to Uruguay on Friday night. Mexico in a similar boat really to the USA. Ricardo Tuca Ferretti, they'd love him to be the permanent head coach, but he's in charge of Tigres at the moment. He's playing hard to get. He's an explosive character. Some have called him the Sir Alex Ferguson of Mexican football. And a much changed Mexican team. 7 of these players are making their first start. 2 there to really look out for. Roberto Alvarado, big opinions about him around an 18-year-old tricky little player. Diego Lainez getting his first start.
Diego Lainez made his debut Friday night against Uruguay. He's the Christian Pulisic of this Mexican side. Look for him and Alvarado to create some real questions for this back four of the United States.
Ian Dark and Taylor Twellman with you here in Nashville as the USA and Mexico meet for the 68th time. Ricardo Montero of Costa Rica, who went to the World Cup, a big appointment for him. And one of the best in CONCACAF getting the job here tonight. Eric Lehigh, one of the few who have played Mexico before. He goes back as far as the 2011 Gold Cup final when Bob Bradley was in charge. In the left back position tonight, one of the few changes being made. Well, we've seen the USA this year being highly tried. A 1-1 draw with France looks very, very good now. They went on to win the World Cup. 2-0 loss to Brazil, and the USA getting us underway in the dark strip here and straight away trying to get Jassy Zardes involved. Mexico tonight not in their usual green but an all-white outfit. And this game might be all the better, Taylor, for the point that there are a lot of young players here who will be eyeballs out to make a name for themselves.
Completely agree, and especially when you look at the last 2 friendlies against Brazil and Lyon against France, where you and I were there, you're playing a little bit with house money because little's expected of you, and it's more about gaining the experience. This is the game by which you're judged and by where the program is judged. Completely different atmosphere here for a friendly tonight.
Has to be said, Mexico have been getting the better of the argument when it's mattered. in recent meetings. The USA haven't had a win over Mexico now for 3.5 years. Be interesting to see what impression that Lainez and Alvarado can make after the big reviews. That was Ayala playing it back. Not sure his central defending partnership wanted that ball with him. Looks like Abea's going to play as a sort of right wing back, pushed forward. And it looks like, as you were thinking beforehand, Taylor, 3 at the back for Mexico.
3 center backs, but I'm looking at the United States setup, and look at where Will Trapp is. A completely different setup than where he was Friday night. He's pushed high up, leaving Matt Miazga, Cameron Carter-Vickers to deal with 2v2 in the back. But that's allowing Adams and McKennie to push higher up and high press.
Cameron Carter-Vickers winning the header, one of those brought into the team tonight. He played very well when the US drew away to France just before the World Cup. Now playing his football with Swansea City in the English Championship, but good enough to have got a new 5-year deal from Tottenham Hotspur recently. Acosta unable to control it on that right-hand side, or keep it in play anyway. Getting his first involvement with the team in 2018, Kellen Acosta, who's on a bit of a resurgence since he joined Colorado Rapids.
If there's anything I'm a little uncomfortable with in this 11, it's Kellen Acosta playing as a wide player. He's not very comfortable sitting on the touchline, and he's not an out-and-out winger. He's more comfortable coming in, playing in those half spaces. So maybe at times Giazzi Zardes can play higher up, and maybe Timothy Weah can play as that second forward on the left side.
Trapp under a bit of pressure there. Here's Matt Miazga, who is playing in the top flight in France for Nantes, and in the starting lineup as well. Lehigh's crossfield ball picked up in midfield here by Weston McKennie. Shaq Moore joining in. Here's McKennie again. Got more of a threat than anyone else for the US against Brazil the other night. And Zardes with the header. Couldn't get it on target.
Yeah, but so much of this play is coming off of second balls, and it's Weston McKennie being in a good spot. That long ball came from Eric Lehigh. McKennie's pushed high up the field, so now it's difficult for Mexico to play out of that. The one area where I've seen a huge progress from Giazzi Zardes, you and I were talking about, Ian, watching training yesterday. He looks more comfortable inside the 18, and I think a big part of that is he's more confident, scoring 15 goals for Columbus in 2018.
Certainly putting the ball in the back of the net. This is a big night, I think, for him, because there is a bit of a striker shortage as far as the USA are concerned. They've looked tight enough at the back, even with inexperienced teams. This is young Lainez, only 18, so much expected of him, but it's early days, of course. McKennie again, plays for Schalke in the Bundesliga. Good pressure on that ball, and in the end it was away by Alanis. Mexico have lost their last 3 games, and of course the World Cup, which started so brilliantly for them with a win over Germany, fizzled out horribly, and they went out in the round of 16 again to Brazil, as it turned out. The vital game for them was losing the final group game to Sweden, which put them into Brazil's path. They've changed coach as well, as now Juan Carlos Osorio has gone to take over Paraguay. There is the man who's in charge at the moment, Tuca Ferretti, who first took charge as an interim boss 25 years ago. This is his 3rd spell in a caretaker capacity. That's Alvarez, back to the debutant goalkeeper, Hugo Gonzalez.
How about the little nugget from Tuca Ferretti's press conference yesterday? Claiming 21 years ago, Sunil Gulati offered a 10-year contract to run the academies and youth development for the United States national team.
Yeah, that was quite a revelation coming out of that, wasn't it? I mean, the whole course of the US soccer might have changed in that moment, and Ferretti's answer been a bit different. Ball given away by Mexico. Here's Giazzi Zardes. Lainez to pick it up. Low centre of gravity. Tricky, loads of confidence. USA quickly hustling him out of it. Here's Lehigh now, getting the job at left back ahead of Anthony Robinson tonight. Say it in a nice way, Lehigh's got a nasty side which defenders sometimes need to have. Tyler Adams. Great atmosphere, isn't it, Taylor, here? Tremendous. Shaq Moore, 21-year-old, into Will Trapp, who's unusually been captain of the USA in 6 of his first 8 caps. Must be some kind of a record, that. Acosta also trying to work a little triangle with McKennie down that side. It was quickly snuffed out, though, by Alanis.
Great reaction there from Tyler Adams. But a big part of the United States in the first 7-8 minutes of this game is the ability to play through Will Trapp in tight spaces. You know, it's allowing Kellen Acosta, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie to interchange at times in a high press centrally. But a big part of their possession spell right now is the ability to play between the lines through Will Trapp.
The USA could be forgiven for playing a little conservatively against a talented side like Brazil, but I think the expectation levels tonight against this experimental Mexican team are much higher. I think everyone's looking to see, can there be a goal threat? Can there be danger moments? There wasn't too much of that on Friday, maybe understandably, given the quality of the opposition. Abea, another of those making his debut for Mexico, on the right-hand side, took that throw in. Here's Aguirre. Now this is Alvarado, who's playing almost up front alongside Saldívar. Lainez. You can see why people might be excited about a player like him.
Along with Alvarado. And both of them, young players that are finding some real good spots right now, asking questions of Will Trapp, Weston McKennie, and that central midfield of the United States.
Guzman's crossfield ball towards Abea, who brought it down very well. And Zach Steffen will be grateful of that nice, easy touch. The young man who's trying to establish himself as the #1 keeper for the US these days.
The first real spell of possession from Mexico, playing between the lines in front of the back four of the United States. Switching the point of attack, and Zach Steffen gets his first touch on a nervy night.
Shaq Moore into Will Trapp. Trapp, who's very mature and a good leader of this young group. He always speaks sensibly when addressing the media. There's the highly rated Tyler Adams of New York Red Bulls, who are doing good things in the Major League Soccer standings at the moment. Up towards Zardes, who's beaten in the air by Alvarez.
Hey, Giassi, good, Giassi!
This part of a really exciting autumn schedule of games for the USA, with England coming up at Wembley in November. Among the assignments, a couple of South Americans next month, Colombia and Peru. Italy as well, as Weah looking to show his trickery. It will be a corner to the US.
Great tackle from Alvarez of Mexico, that quick reaction, but it was Giassi Zardes bringing it down, looking for that quick ball in behind. I think right now with Mexico being very compact defensively, if I'm Timothy Weah, I'm going to take a few more chances to play in behind this back five of the Mexican national team and maybe look for those balls and playing off of Giassi Zardes, almost playing as a second forward coming from wide areas inside. Set piece is always a problem for Mexico defensively.
They were practicing these set pieces at some length yesterday. The US Zardes wasn't quite able to win it on the near post. Alvarado was back doing some defending, and here is Lainez again. Plays for the famous America club in Mexico. He made his league debut only 18 months ago at the age of 16. Alvarado made his debut in Liga MX at the age of 15. That one was aimed towards him. Miazga cut it out for the US. Miazga, who is officially a Chelsea player. They keep loaning him out every season, but he's getting better all the time. Guzman picked a nice pass. They're always looking to get Lainez involved. He's playing just behind the front two.
But he's also picking up that spot right in between Matt Miazga and Eric Lehigh off the back shoulder of either Adams and Will Trapp. And that's a real issue right now for the United States defensively, because Lainez and Alvarado on the other side are doing a wonderful job of picking up those difficult spots that you want to defend. So that's on Will Trapp and that leadership, but also the communication between Carter Vickers and Matt Miazga.
Towards Jose Abella. The US looking to add a bit of inspiration to the perspiration here. This Lainez again. Back to Guzman, who's a powerful midfield player who likes to drive forward and is very progressive with his passing. Alvarado. Trapp fouled him, and Alvarado stays down.
Yeah, but immediately look at what Will Trapp's talking about. He's looking at Miazga and Cameron Carter-Vickers saying, well, you've got to tell me and communicate. The problem right now for Will Trapp is he's chasing the game from the width of the 18, and he's not taking a deep breath, looking over that right shoulder and that pocket of space, and that's the way Mexico has been breaking down this pressure from the United States. This is a big game tonight for Will Trapp. He's got to be up to the challenge. He's got to organize. This is a high line from the United States. Zach Steffen's got to be on his toes for this in-swinging ball here.
From Roberto Alvarado. Good deep cross, well defended. But the Azadas didn't get it away. Guzman dropped for him. And it was almost an inadvertent effort in the end. He wasn't able to really get it out of his feet and line it up for a proper shot.
Yeah, but this is a dangerous header for Cameron Carter-Vickers coming back across in front of his goal. He did everything well, getting between him and his attacking player, but heading this back in front of the goal, it's extremely dangerous. Mexico not getting the chance they deserve, but this is more about the United States in these areas here. Looking at the spacing, Lehigh and Timothy Weah, they're kind of on top of each other, and I think Timothy Weah can move centrally a little bit and provide support and have Eric Lehigh, who's not naturally left-footed, Ian. He's going to come inside on his right foot, provide some width and some space in behind.
Arteaga making a good run down that side. Cuts in towards Diva, the striker who's making his first start for Mexico.
And immediately look at Arteaga. Change of pace in transition. Getting by Kellen Acosta. Will Trapp sliding over, providing that cover and balance along with Tyler Adams. But we've seen that from the young attacking players of the Mexican national team so far, that when the ball turns over, they've got that turn of pace going the other way.
Comes the Mexican corner kick and tipped over the bar by Steffen. He was alert there and needed to be, as well as that ball was attacked by Edson Alvarez.
And the one thing that's been so impressive about Zach Steffen as a young goalkeeper is how quick he is for having a big body. He's got quick feet, he's got great reaction. We saw it last year in the MLS playoffs. You and I saw it in Lyon against France. Quick reaction, good save from Zach Steffen.
Having a very good season with Columbus Crew.
This in-swinging ball here, Will Trapp on the near post. He's vital with any ball on that near post.
Time it's more comfortable for Steffen. looking to follow, of course, in a famous line of American goalkeepers, which includes one of our guests on the panel tonight, Casey Keller. This is Lehigh. Charged down by Linus, who's going for the return, and Lehigh's got to cover that ground. Alvarado just played that behind Linus, and the two youngsters there who played to such rave reviews made a bit of a mess of it. Shaq Moore now to link up with Kellen Acosta down that right-hand side. It's the confident young McKennie wearing the number 8 shirt. American side without Josie Altidore, Michael Bradley, Brad Guzan, Matt Beasler, Jeff Cameron, Graham Zusi, Omar Gonzalez, and of course no Pulisic again. Christian Pulisic, he's missed 7 of the last 8 games, isn't he now, with injuries. Abeya's got a chase on here, he'll get there. Cut up by Matt Biazga for a corner kick.
Yeah, but that is now the 3rd ball that's from Mexico switching the point of attack. And in this area right here, Guzman with no pressure whatsoever from the United States midfield. He's allowed to turn, take 2 or 3 touches, and switch that point of attack. That's the 3rd one in a row. At some point, the United States have to put pressure on Guzman to limit that ball. That's allowing them to break down the pressure from the United States.
Another corner for the US to defend. There have been a few who's come out here to Arteaga. Getting the cross in again. Alvarez was in there. Only he and Ayala survived from the Mexican team that went out of the World Cup to Brazil in the summer. Irving Lozano, the big star for Mexico at the World Cup. He got the winner against Germany. He's gone back to his club early. That's why he's not featuring tonight. Also Guillermo Ochoa, the usual goalkeeper, who had a great World Cup, made loads of saves. Arteaga winning the header. Still no sign really yet from the USA of being able to create things, and they've not really been able to get Tim Weah into the game early on.
No, a big part of that right now, the first 5 or 6 minutes of this game in a rivalry, whether it's a friendly or not, and there's going to be high emotion, there's going to be a lot of 50-50 balls and a lot of sloppy touches. But now that the game is settled, Mexico's having the run of play. And the issue here is at the international level, how can the United States break down pressure but then get from the middle of the field to the final 25 to 30 yards? You and I have called numerous amount of games where you can keep the ball in these areas fine, no worries. But how do you get from here to the final 25 against quality competition that are very compact defensively? That's the biggest question about the United States men's national team right now.
Trapp decided to go long that time. It didn't work though, because Zardes wasn't able to win that ball. There's Linus, who might be young with that floppy hair and that, but he looks very, very strong in the upper body and obviously has great bursts of electric pace. Using that strength there to make sure Trapp didn't get it, and now Mexico can counter quickly, can they? Now Abeya again on this side, curls a nice looking ball towards Guzman with the header. Mexico have won 7 times in the USA, most damagingly in the first game of the Hex, the final round of World Cup qualifying in the last cycle, when Rafael Marquez who's now retired, scored in the last minute. Had that not happened, the USA would have made it to the World Cup. But it did, of course. Adams chipping it forward. That's Moore trying to get on the end of it, but the decision goes Mexico's way.
Ian, I want to go back to this chance from Mexico. It's just a little thing you want to watch, but in the middle of the field, as we freeze it right here, watch this. This is your runner that's going to make this run in this area, and that's where you've got to track runners. Because that ball turns over, Tyler Adams doesn't make that run, and that is a great run from Victor Guzman. Very penetrating run from a deep line position. In the last 10 to 15 minutes, he's been good.
There are spies who watch a lot of the football in Mexico, have passed on very good reports about Guzman.
Well, and the one thing you like about him in the position he's playing, he's always thinking about playing forward. You know, he's not playing negatively, he's not playing side passes, he's looking forward more often than not. And even with his runs, very penetrating run immediately when that ball turns over. Honestly, over the last 10 minutes, he's controlling the tempo of this game.
Zardes, again nothing doing against those three central defenders. They need to get Adams and McKennie up around him, even beyond him on occasions, and Tim Weah as well. Well, the Mexican fans, and there are a lot of them in this arena. There is a big Latino population in the Nashville area, and they've turned out in some force. They were having picnics in the car park, doing the old tailgating from about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Good ball to pick out Alvarado. Jose Abella doing a good job on his right-hand side. The busy Lainez on the ball, looking for the foul there. Is the referee going to give that to him? Think he might.
18-year-old kid from Club America, and he's putting on a show. And we talk about relishing the opportunity and taking advantage of the opportunity. This is a soft foul, make no mistake about it. But for a young 18-year-old kid, Ian, he knows Matt Miazga is coming in hard, and so any kind of touch, he falls over. Now he draws a dangerous set piece. Lainez and Alvarado are putting on a show. Now the difficult part here, that's a great look at what Zach Steffen's looking at. He's got to get Kellen Acosta on this near post, because this ball's in swinging. It's at a spot that if he gets it up over Timothy Weah, that's a difficult save here for Zach Steffen. Dangerous set piece here for Mexico.
I think he'll look to fizz this, won't he? Roberto Alvarado. Ooh. Well, it's a miscue of spectacular proportions. Apologies, that's all he can do, really. Holds up his hand. Sorry, mates. Mexico with this amazing record of having got to the last 16 of the World Cup on the last 7 tournaments. Deja vu all over again. Of course, the USA did beat Mexico in 2002 to reach the quarterfinals. 16 years ago now, though. Brian McBride and Landon Donovan. The old Dos a 0 again, wasn't it? Which, of course, was the repeating scoreline in Columbus, Ohio, until the last round of World Cup qualifying, when Mexico put a very firm stop to that. Here's Ayala now. Guzman again looking to pick out Lainez with the ball, but it's never quite going to work, I don't think, that one. I think he wants the ball to feet, doesn't he, this young man? He
does, Ian, but that's better from the United States. They were more compact, so that space between Miazga, Cameron Carter-Vickers, and the three in the midfield in front of them was very compact, so it's difficult to play between the lines, and then Guzman's left with that only look of over the top.
Kellen Acosta. Easily cut out by Arteaga, who's taking the eye over on that left-hand side. He really is lightning fast.
I just think because of Kellen Acosta's natural tendencies, Ian, the United States are lacking something in the attack because they're not getting anything in that wide area on the right or Timothy Weah because it's been very predictable from them because you're basically playing with a defensive midfielder in Will Trapp and then 3 number 8s in Acosta, McKennie, and Tyler Adams.
It's McKennie. Adams chips it forward, hoping Zardes can make something of it. He did too. McKennie again. Zardes goes down on the edge of the box, and that's a free kick in a very dangerous position.
This is the #1 area where Greg Berhalter, the manager of Columbus Crew, has completely changed Giazzi Zardes from his time with the LA Galaxy. And Dave Sarachan had him for many years as an assistant coach for the LA Galaxy, but he's cleaner around the 18. I'm not saying he's the cleanest of players, but he's become more confident and more clean with his back to goal. This didn't happen when he was playing with the LA Galaxy, knowing the defender's off his back shoulder, knowing he doesn't really need to play the ball. That's great work, little thing from Giazzi Zardes, but now a dangerous set piece for the United States, 18 yards out.
Yep, with Kellen Acosta, who's in charge of all the set pieces. That much was apparent watching the training yesterday. He gets the chance here to mark his return to the US team with a goal. It is Acosta, and it's straight into the wall. He gets another go, though, and fizzes the shot wide. He did get it past the white wall the second time.
Well, Acosta, Tyler Adams are saying that the Mexican defender had his arm up. Now, I mean, Alvarez, what else is he going to do? The arm's inside. Good no call from the referee.
Yeah, he got that spot on. It's a good battle here, with a lot of new names out there. New names which, well, the players concerned hope will become familiar names to you through this World Cup cycle. There'll come a point where decisions will have to be taken about can they cut it or can't they at this kind of level.
And you and I were talking about a pregame, Ian. You and I will be wherever the U.S.-Mexico home World Cup qualifier will be in the next couple of years. And who knows, we may be talking about a player or two that in this game they made a name for themselves. They played themselves into the national team through the Gold Cup, and then all of a sudden they're playing in a massive World Cup qualifier between these two rivals.
There are a few situations vacant, I think it's fair to say. Ayala spreading the play out wide again. Here's the influential Guzman looking to pick the passes towards Saldívar, out to Lainez, back to Saldívar again, and he couldn't get his feet sorted out, and McKennie could have started a break there but didn't get his pass right. And that's the sort of thing that will infuriate the coach Sarachan.
Have a good reaction here from Matt Miazga, dealing with the ball inside the 18 and then cover from Tyler Adams. But this Diego Lainez is a special player because when the ball turns over, he's immediately an outlet. And what's hurting the United States right now is on the left side between Lehigh and Timothy Weah, they're getting very little because naturally Lehigh isn't left-footed. So that space is very predictable for Mexico to defend, and when that ball turns over, there's an option like Lainez right in front of Lehigh.
Alvarez to chip it in. The USA worked hard as well on defending those kind of things. Arteaga again, and Guzman in there. He thought he might have got a nudge, but it was nothing much. But Victor Guzman of Pachuca, where they produce a lot of good young players, is another one who's having a good game here for Mexico. Guzman was also in the Guadalajara and Chivas academies before he went to Pachuca. Cameron Carter-Vickers to spread the ball wide. Tyler Adams has taken up a wide-ish position there on the right. In fact, he finished the game against Brazil in exactly that spot. want to catch some of the little films that have been made about some of these young American players called Rising. I get through the US Soccer website. Adams telling the story of his 75-mile trips every day into work with the youngsters at New York Red Bulls. Great work by his single parent, Melissa. Here's where you get the payoff, playing in front of big crowds for your nation.
On September 11th. I thought for a 19-year-old kid, he was very articulate talking about what September. That's
well, he's handled that outside the box, hasn't he? Here,
yep.
Stefan. Oh my goodness, mate! This could be trouble, or is the referee going to take a more benevolent view of that? It's definitely the goalkeeper's come out and handled that outside the box.
Well, the question is, he uses his hands here. He's in the 18, and he lets go of it. Does he use his hand right there?
Well, he had, to be fair to him, he handles it again on the line, and the line is part of the penalty area, not outside it.
Right, when he's lying down, though, whether or not that left hand is on it, that was closer than you and I thought.
Yeah, maybe the ref got that right, actually. He is a World Cup referee. For all the world, it looked like he'd handled it outside. But the replay did reveal a little bit more. Now then, they've had enough, I think, of Alvarado, and they want to let Lainez himself have a go here. And this is quite a promising angle for a left footer.
Yeah, the difficult part is Zach Steffen. Does he cheat a little bit, thinking he's going to hit this up over the wall? But if he does, Lainez then has an angle to that back post.
It is Lainez. It wasn't a very good one again.
No.
Alvarado puts it back in there again. Good defending, Cameron Carter-Vickers. They're still searching for any kind of fluency going forward. In truth, Mexico have looked the better team so far. Alvarado. Trapp can't bring it under control. Lainez again. Does look a player, doesn't he, Taylor?
Well, he's up to the moment. I mean, you're looking at everything. His movement, he's not in the one same spot the entire time. He's inside, he's outside. The other part, though, is Alvarado as well. That tandem's asking some real questions, and Lehigh's asking Matt Miazga to communicate, but Matt Miazga's saying, well, I'm already dealing with one of the attacking players coming forward. I think you're spot on, Ian. Other than the first 5-6 minutes when the United States were high pressing, it's been all Mexico.
Ferretti, the interim coach, is known as a bit of a tactical masterclass man, and I think Mexico would quite like to appoint him. He's playing hard to get. Maybe he's hoping the money keeps going up. Couldn't blame him. Guzman again. On Sunday on ESPN, we'll have Wayne Rooney and DC United taking on the New York Red Bulls from the Audi Field. Hurricane Florence permitting, of course. DC on a good run. That's 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific for that game. Rooney and DC United, quite a story in MLS at the moment. Alvarado again. I think the American fans, the famous outlaws who support the team, gathered behind that goal, just a little frustrated at the moment by what they're seeing.
As are the 10 field players on the field right now, Ian.
Yeah, probably. Aguirre laying it to one side. Start of a new era for both of these CONCACAF juggernauts, as it were.
See, here you see Tyler Adams chasing 35, 40 yards, the width of the field, trying to bring some kind of energy to this team. But this is where Matt Miazga, Cameron Carter-Vickers push up the field, get high up, cause some issues, because the high pressure of the United States in the first 6 or 7 minutes were an issue. But since then, Mexico's having to run away just through possession and passing through the midfield.
And a lot of long, high balls played towards Zardes. He's done his best, but there needs to be a little more invention, imagination and flair through the midfield. But here come Mexico again. Once again, it's Diego Lainez. Oh, really turned on the style there. Brilliant stuff. Alvarado couldn't finish it off, but I tell you what, this young man is putting on a bit of a show here in Nashville.
It's one thing to pick up spots. It's another thing when you do get in a dangerous spot to make them pay. Absolutely undresses Will Trapp. Quick feet, cuts it to the end line. 18-year-old kid from Club America is putting on an absolute show here tonight in Nashville.
Apparently there have been 4 bids for him already, Taylor, from Europe, the latest from Roma. Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is a real issue for the United States because Eric Lehigh is not naturally left-footed. So he makes the field more narrow to defend if you're Mexico.
And so far, Tim Weah he hasn't hardly had a touch, but from one little run down the left-hand side. It's not been able to get into the game at all. There's Lainez again. Saldivar thought he was fouled. The referee agrees with him, and this time he's going to pull out a yellow card for Matt Miazga.
Matt Miazga just caught no man's land because Saldivar with a real good turn. Looks like the United States is going to make a switch here. Julian Green coming on, and we've seen Weston McKennie grab the back of his leg over the last 4 or 5 minutes. You would have to think that's the sub. But that changes the look a little bit because Julian Green's more of an attacking midfielder, second forward, so maybe that simplifies the task for Tyler Adams and Will Trapp a little bit. Or the other option is you play Julian Green wide right and bring Kellen Acosta into the middle, where his more natural position is playing as a number 8.
Green might add a little bit more craft to proceedings for the US if they can get him onto the ball. Acosta to lay it forward. Now here is Weah. This is better. Acosta breaking onto it, going down. There's screams for a penalty, but only from the crowd, from none of the US players.
Oh, that's a great spot from Weston McKennie.
Weah again from a long way out, deflected behind for a corner kick off Alvarez, I think it was.
For the first time this half, you've called Timothy Weah's name, but then it's the reaction right when this ball turns over. Weston McKennie stops the counter from Mexico and allows the United States to keep pressure on the back 5 of Mexico here.
It's going to be McKennie. You were right, Taylor. He has got a little bit of a knock. That will be bad news for his club, Schalke, as well. And bad news for the USA too. So Julian Green to come on. Green it was who, of course, scored for the USA at the 2014 World Cup against Belgium in the round of 16 and scored against France away from home earlier this year. In fact, there you see it, 4 goals in 11 appearances. That's not too shabby, really, by way of a start. On what's become a rare foray forward for the US. They do have this corner kick now. Mexico defend it pretty well, though. Saldivar. Play on, says the referee quite rightly. There was no foul there. Gone out of play. Well, we can hear more about that substitution now. Let's get out to Sebastian.
Hey guys, as Weston McKennie came off, I heard him speaking with the trainers. He pointed to his left knee. They asked him if it was a knee-to-knee hit, contact. He said no, non-contact. So certainly some concern there. Julian Green enters the match. The last words to him from Dave Sarakin: you got to find the game. Don't let the game come to you. Perhaps Sarakin looking for a little bit more aggression from his players.
Thanks, Seb. Seb down there on the touchline, keeping abreast of developments. to Shaq Moore, who's yet to appear for his new club in Spain, the Spanish second division, Reus. I think he's just been carrying a little bit of an injury. That's the reason for that. Now then, Green getting involved straight away, buying half a yard and getting a shot in. Out to Trapp. Wondered if he was going to let go. Moore will. Blocked by Arteaga. Better spell here for the US. Trapp's ball not quite good enough.
Good spot here from Julian Green in behind the two center midfielders of Mexico. And that's going to be the biggest difference between he and Weston McKennie. More naturally, a second forward, an attacking midfielder. I think a little surprisingly, Ian Kellen Acosta stays wide right and Julian Green's playing in the middle.
Yeah, I think they're hoping he can be like a kind of number 10. Now then, Jesse Zardes. Where? Good effort! And the debutant goalkeeper, Hugo Gonzalez, is able to grab it.
But it's not by accident that all of a sudden Timothy Weah over the last 5-6 minutes had more touches coming central. I still think with Eric Lehigh behind him, who's not going to overlap, who's not going to get forward, I think Timothy Weah can take a few more chances and come inside, come outside, play higher up the field, take a few more chances going forward, and we've seen that over the last 3 or 4 minutes here.
This has been a better spell for the US. And crucially, I wouldn't say they've been under heavy pressure, but it's been Mexico asking most of the questions. The defense has stood firm. They've been a little bemused at times by the wiles of the brilliant youngster Lainez. Arteaga once again, and away by Carter Vickers, who weighs 200 pounds, by the way. I think he's a better player than he looks, though, and I think Mauricio Pochettino, the Spurs manager, believes that as well. Lehigh made a bit of a mess of that, got under the ball. With Hull City now. He scored last year when Nottingham Forest knocked out against Arsenal in the FA Cup. He was voted the best goal of the whole competition. And famously, remember the story? His wife's present to him for scoring was to let him have a dog. Don't know if it ever happened.
I think it did.
Yeah.
I would also argue that I would have asked for a different gift, but that's neither here nor there.
Now, Tim Weah had a go a moment or two back. He's just beginning to get into the game.
Yeah, but he's closer to Giazzi Zardes. So now the back five of Mexico, he's inside, so he's not stuck on the touchline. Now he can be a little bit more dynamic. He can take a player one-on-one. He can have a shot from distance. Weah's been more dangerous when he's come inside a little bit more.
Scored a couple of goals for Paris Saint-Germain already this season. And of course, he's keeping some pretty exalted company around there with Neymar, Mbappe and Cavani. Not easy to get a game. Carter Vickers to hit it long, too long for Shaq Moore to take advantage. There's no DeAndre Yedlin in the starting lineup tonight, though he is among the substitutes. I remember Yedlin making his debut. He's now the most experienced man in the squad with 53 caps. Shows how things change, doesn't it?
You can see the concern on Weston McKennie grabbing that knee.
Yeah.
If it really is a non-contact injury, that's the absolute worst. You never want to speculate, but the fact that he's coming off saying there was no contact whatsoever, that's concerning.
Yep, it is. Have to hope that's not ligament damage or something like that. USA 0, Mexico 0 here in the Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Lainez again, certainly the player of the half, Abella. Well, I wonder whether they'd actually start Ayala tonight. He is easily the most experienced player out there for Mexico. It's his 47th cap here. Tigres, long-serving defender.
but you need that when you're in a transition period. That's my one concern for the United States, Ian, is where is that leadership?
Here's Julian Green to look to bend one. He's done quite well since he's come on. That will be half time. No breakthrough for the USA or for Mexico. And it's been a pleasure to watch the performance of Diego Lainez, the 18-year-old from the America Club. Now let's go down to Sebastian, who has Dave Sarachan, the interim coach, with him.
Thanks, Ian. Dave, thoughts on the first half?
Again, I think we can do a little better with the ball. You know, we got to be alert on some of their diagonals and second balls. I think if we show a little more composure in possession, then we'll be able to find some spots and get at them a little bit.
Thanks, Dave. Ian, we send it back up to you.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed, and thanks to Dave for doing that as well at short notice there. He'll have plenty to say to the players at half-time. The USA do need to improve a little bit. Goalless at half-time here in the grudge match between the USA and Mexico. We'll be back in just a moment.